Hello, good morning once again. This is GTV Breakfast. It's on channel 278 on DSTV and on Facebook is GTV Ghana. Today is the 11th of May, 2023. My guests for the breakfast conversation are so we are shaking things up and revving your energy for you. So Sheikh Arumia Shaibu is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, and Reverend Dr. Lawrence Tete is our favorite economist slash preacher man, and he's the president and founder of Worldwide Miracle Outreach. Smack bang in the middle of this nonsense must stop. Today is day 11. How is the nonsense? Is the nonsense nonsensing?
I tell you, it's stopping. Yesterday, I got a very interesting call from Archbishop Pamabuckle.
Okay.
Archbishop Pamabuckle is somebody that I see as one of our mentors, of course, a man that has done very well. I have so much respect for him, but we have some humor too. Yes. So he called me and said, Lawrence, I've seen this nonsense must stop all over there. What is it about? So I broke it down. And I said, a lot of people have finished working. They don't have a job. A lot of women are looking very good, but they're not getting people to marry them. Rather, it's married men that is going after them. A lot of people today are in certain sickness that they don't know where it came from. And as a matter of fact, if you look at the whole wide world, there are a lot of things we must look at holistically. Our political terrain, our economic terrain, and even the languages that comes, and how much of culture of insult. And if you look at the whole environment, we are asking ourselves questions where we went wrong, where we made mistake, and why we are where we are. And that is what I mean by the nonsense must stop, the absurdity of life. But attendance has been very overwhelming. People are coming from all walks of lives, and it is very interesting. Yesterday we had some Muslim man come to give us scriptures.
Nice.
I was so impressed. I mean, so it's like people are taking it, and it's so it's open to people from all walks of life, really. And I've realized that everybody has some nonsense in their life.
That must stop.
That must stop. And you look at yourself and Kafui, look at the vast knowledge you have. Look at how God has exposed you. Look at the contacts you have. Who say you cannot be an anchor person on BBC? Who say you cannot be an anchor person on CNN? Who says the people there are better than you? But sometimes we get limited, and you'll be surprised. I'm not saying this thing to look down on GTV, but you'll be surprised there'll be somebody sitting in some corner in GTV who does not even put a value on what you do. This nonsense must stop. And like we wake up and come every morning. So this nonsense must stop. I want us to look at it from every segment, even from the religious landscape. What is going wrong? Why should an old man be told that he's going to die? Why should somebody get up and think that I'm taking advantage of the state? What is the police doing? What is the army doing? This nonsense of Galamsey. How long are we going to sit down to kill our own in the name of a few getting money? And by the time we realize, we'll destroy everything. And then finally, this nonsense must stop. I was also looking at the prayer aspect. Hannah was looking for a baby boy, one. And the husband said, am I not more than that? Am I not giving you enough meat? What nonsense is that? The woman wants to also be called a mother. And then when the woman started praying, Hannah started praying, the priest came and said, you are drunk. How insulting would that be? I believe she left it. If we can look up to God, who is the author and finisher of our faith, the nonsense will stop. Then finally, I was also looking at the nonsense of a lot of politicians never respected the clergy, never respected the church, never respected the mosques. All of a sudden, they want to go into politics and they've seen our value. This nonsense must stop. We should not be giving T-shirts for us to change our mindset. So these are some of the things I'm looking at. And I'm looking at it holistically. In fact, there's one aspect of it I like. NDC is taking the battle for MPP, and MPP is taking the battle for NDC. But the truth is that it's for both NDC, MPP, CPP, and ourselves. This nonsense, the absurdity in Ghana must stop. Well, few people have the money, and the vast people are suffering. Somebody has about 10 Land Cruisers in his house, showing off, filling on government fuel. And there are people who are even looking for just a bicycle and they don't have it. This nonsense of greed, selfishness, profane, and hypocrisy must stop.
Hashtag this nonsense must stop. So it's happening at Christian Village.
Christian Village. Every day from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. As we are speaking now, if you log into Dr. Lawrence Tete, you watch it live. And every morning, GTV shows the adverts. And then from 5 a.m. till 6 a.m. every morning. I think TV shows it as well. So it's something that is going very well. And I'm very excited. As I'm speaking now, Bishop Quay is speaking. I introduced him just before I rushed in.
Okay.
As Quay is speaking here.
Thank you so much.
This nonsense.
I've seen the billboard all over the place.
Everywhere
I drive.
Yeah,
I say,
that's your man. Sheikh, what's happening? There's something happening today at the National Mosque, right?
Oh yes. I mean, very. It's just in the line of how we all the time meet here. It's the second annual meeting of the Ghana Catholic Bishops Conference and Muslim leaders. The first one was held last year, was hosted by the Catholic Bishops Conference. This is the second edition which the Muslims are hosting, and we are so excited about it. The proposal that we want to be having this annual meeting explore means of deepening interfaith harmony and solidarity for a positive engagement where we can draw on our shared values to be contributors to our national harmony and national peace, and also to create a platform for dialogue on a structured manner, such that anytime there's an issue, because we are human beings, if there's an issue, you have a certain way by which, on the basis of mutual respect, you are able to find a way. Recently, there was an issue which I don't intend to mention it here. What I did was to use my phone to call a certain clergyman and say, "Oh, I hear these things and happen. You know, these things we don't want them to get into the media. So if there's a way we can handle it." And he quickly said, "Okay, no, this one I'm going to call this. I'm going to call that." And then that issue has died down. I mean, nobody has heard about it, and we have, and that is so. So in that spirit, we are so excited that today at the Kanda National Mosque we are hosting the Catholic Bishops Conference and the other Muslim leaders who are just coming, so that sit down, have a meeting, and then we see what we can be.
Who will be the speakers? What's on the agenda?
The speakers, I mean, it's going to be co-chaired. It's going to be co-chaired by a Muslim leader and then a Catholic Catholic leader. And then we are also trying to look at the theme of overcoming the barriers of religious prejudices for sustainable national peace and development, successes and challenges. Is something that we are going to look at. And speakers from the Catholic are going to look at this same subject from the Christian Catholic perspective. And then we have another speaker to also speak. I mean, Dr. Rabi is from the Muslim side. I'm very sure about Dr. Rabi Tuama, who is a former lecturer at the University of Ghana, Legon, will be speaking here. And then, because from our side it's more heterogeneous, so you are bringing together all the Muslim sects. So we have the Ahlul Sunnah representative will give the welcome address. The co-chairing will be between the Catholic and Ahmadiyya. Moderation is going to be between the Muslim and a Catholic, and that's sort of thing. So the whole thing, and then the chief imam himself will be there also to give his remark. The minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs will be there because it falls directly into the domain of his area to facilitate and make sure that religions and chieftaincy do not become a menace to our, like I said some time ago, and it is on record. Chieftaincy is a noble and sacred institution that we all respect, but gradually it is sliding into an area of destruction where it is seen more as a factor of national destabilization, and which we are worried about because we want to maintain the dignity of that. So for him coming from that angle, he's also coming to give us his support, and so solidarity messages will be given by the National Peace Council. The NCCE will also give a solidarity message, and then the Christian Council will also give a solidarity message. So in the nutshell, that is. But yesterday too, I also participated. I traveled outside the country. I don't hope to mention where I went to, but just as I came, my first program was to attend a program of the Ekanka. Yeah, and they are going to launch. And what excites me is about, they say, the Africa Soul Adventure. That's the theme, which they are going to launch. It's going to start somewhere in August or so, but the launch has taken place. And for me, I was excited about, one, adventure, two, the soul. That mystery that lies beneath our physical being, which most of us are detached from and we are not conscious of. And because we disturb that domain of our existence, the soul, the sickness that emerges from there shows in the nonsense that would quote. I mean, that
nonsense that must stop.
Yeah. If you are disconnected and you don't understand what the soul means, and I'm sure, both from the biblical and Quranic aspect of it, there is something non-physical that dwells inside us. That is what God has used to give us our being. That aspect is so key for our physical development too. So if you cause it to damage, but that's what I think and that is why we are doing religion, but we are disconnected from the soul. So we do religion, but we are not spiritual. We do more of the formal, external show of religion, but down deep in our hearts, we lack love, sincerity. We lack concern for each other. We are looking for a way to damage each other. Look at even our politics. Majority of these politicians are Muslims and Christians. But if you go beyond what they do and the damage they do to themselves in the name of seeking to gain power, what they do, you'll be amazed. All because we are not connected very well with our spiritual domain of life.
Okay, thank you so much.
Chance to commend Sheikh for something they did just a few weeks ago. I got a very passionate call from Nigeria, the Christian Council of Nigeria, which I'm very connected to. And they congratulated the Muslims in Ghana. I think when you were about to do your Fana Eid,
yes, the Eid celebration,
was when Dr. W.G. Kumoyi was also holding his beginning his program. And it was a little bit of a race as to whether they should give in or which the Christians should give in. But the Muslims stood up. They were able to come with a compromise. They even waited for everything to be clear, for them to even use a sound. And I think it went very well to the Nigerians. And I felt very proud that I was a Ghanaian, that we Ghanaian Christians and Muslims can stay together. And please let us maintain that thing. That is what makes peace for us. Politicians cannot bring us peace. The ones that can bring us peace are the religious front. And let's hold together. We are one people. It is only in Ghana here that you see a family that some belong. You go to Akoto Lante now. Some people are trying like a tuba. When they say somebody is tuba, it means that the person is not from the northern, but is a Muslim now. And you see both Christians and Muslims eating together. And I think that is beautiful. And having said that, thank you too. The food your wife brought for us during the Salah was powerful. My house people, everybody ate it.
MashaAllah.
Please let her bring another one again.
I'll tell you, look, you have to do the
Encore.
How do they put encore? Is it
Encore.
Yes. Thank you. I really wanted to say this publicly to thank
you so
your wife.
much.
And
I'm
I felt
happy.
honored. I like the stew. There's a way that the Hausa people do their stew. That's different from the one we do. I enjoyed it. I ate it with kenke,
MashaAllah.
with rice, ate it with banku, and I told them keep it in the deep freezer. This is from the Sheikh's family.
You're making me too hungry right now. The Sheikh, good morning. Hope you're having a good breakfast. Not just the physical one, but also the one for your mind as well. Let's go through the headlines. Daily Graphic. There's a Graphic and Lands Ministry dialogue which is happening today, and law enforcement is on the top of the agenda. Retaining the minerals value chain, ensuring stricter enforcement of laws to tackle illegal activities in the mining and forest sectors. Yeah, dealing with things like this. So that's a big dialogue that is happening today. I'm sure in the news tomorrow you'll be getting news on that. The Electoral Commission has stayed off the NDC elections, so the elections have been injuncted following a petition from the Dr. Dufour team, and so They say they will not be available on the 13th, which is Saturday, for the elections. Of course, if the referee is not around, there can be no match. What else do we have here? 14 institutions fined 1.3 million Ghana cedis for non-compliance with the Right to Information law. It's a picture there of the information minister on that news. Ghanaian Times, 7 Chinese and Nigerian citizens busted as Ghana Standards Authority shuts down Fennis Metal Technology Company for production of fake electrical cables. Defend underprivileged members of society, not state employers. Attorney General charges Legal Aid Commission Defenders Division. Okay, makes sense. Access to information requests has increased, according to the information minister. Farmers to be supported with inputs and credit, says the Agric Minister. Ghana has received $500 million support to implement 12 projects approved by the Green Climate Fund, which is the financial mechanism of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So there are a couple of projects here. There's a $54 million Ghana Shale Landscape Emission Reductions Project. There's a $442,000 capacity building project, among many others. So it's total $500 million involved. Business Finder, SNIT to enroll 750,000 self-employed people for regular income during old age until death. Picture there of Dr. John Ofuri, Chinkran SNIT DG there. Inflation has dropped further to 41.2%, says the Business Finder. And the Anchor, so we have Education Minister sits on bribery and sexual harassment petition since 2021. A pregnant woman, NSS personnel and others ready to testify. Odan police under pressure to free Chief and Yemeni Galamsey suspects. So there's a lot of news here. Reverend, which one is on your mind this morning? And there's a story about a drowning of some kids, which we will be keeping an eye on pretty soon. So there's a story connected with some kids who were drowned at Fana. So our man Jay Gabra will be checking that out. I also saw a flyer that is going around, and it involves the hiring of a showroom manager. And the key requirements are that the person must have a master's degree, at least 3 to 5 years of proven working experience in showroom management. The candidate must have the ability to analyze and judge, plan ability, decision-making ability, innovation ability, and organizational coordination, cross-cultural and cross-language commitment and skills. The applicant should be a European, an Indian, or a Lebanese. That's the flyer that I saw. So we are making calls to find out from the company exactly what they mean by restricting the applicants to this job to a particular race or nationality.
I've been very concerned about that. But I've noticed most of our companies today prefer to have an expatriate as a leader. And that is something we should be very mindful about. One, when you put most Ghanaians in charge of certain institutions, they don't do well. And that mentality of we have to see a colored person before work is done, I think must be stopped. It's a nonsense that must be stopped. And so I know a lot of my friends who are into very gainful employment and they have institutions, and they prefer their line managers to be of somebody from another color, and of course that is what they put respect. But if you look at the qualification they have, it's absolutely nothing. And so we should be very careful. It's even the same thing that we think that when an expatriate comes, they can do better than we will do. But we should start to build ourselves well. Fortunately, when we go to Europe or America, we do well. But when we come to our own country, we become so selfish and sluggish-minded, and we don't seem to look at people's job well. And that is why this instance seems to be taking place. And we need to guard against it. Otherwise, all our good job will be going to the hands of foreigners. And these are the very things that make us lose our hard-earned currency, like Sheikh will say, our durable dollar.
The durable
Because by the time we realize we are paying people in hard currency and it doesn't help us. We must also put a caution that there are certain jobs that can only be done by indigenous. There must be a clause somewhere that you cannot give certain job to certain people. And of course, even in Europe, where some of us have lived for 10 years, there are certain jobs that you have to be a British citizen. You cannot just be a visitor. If you have only a visitor's visa or you have a working permit, it doesn't allow you to do that job. So that we will not waste our energy with our young men and women learning and getting a job into the hands of foreigners. At least we should think of Ghana first.
I do not think that there's any law in Ghana that allows you to discriminate on the basis of your race for a particular job. And I'm trying to get through to a labor or a legal expert.
There are certain, of course, there are even certain jobs that you cannot get into if you are not a Ghanaian. In terms of even some of the companies and organizations and institutions, there are certain trades, there are certain businesses that are meant for our people. And I think some of those things, the enforcing agencies and the regulators must be able to give us a very clear indicators so they can follow up on it. Otherwise, everything will end up in the hands of foreigners. And very soon our children will be the cleaners in our own community. And I think that is not fair.
There is an impression that foreign-run organizations do better. It's a certain kind of. And secondly, I don't know, the psychological basis of it. Even employees appear to be more respectful to foreigners when you establish institutions.
Yes.
I mean, when they see the person is a white person, even the workers themselves are more. I mean, look at our team. Look at our team, even the Black Stars. Put a Ghanaian coach there. The players themselves, who are Ghanaians themselves, full of pride and ego, and they will never respect their own. I mean, and the examples are there. I mean, the examples, and then the impression is being created that, I mean, look at our young people who the kind of ball they play when they go outside the country, and they come back and they are not seen as people who can manage our national team. And look at how abysmal we have been performing, and so on. So I think we need to work on our psyche. We need to work on our psyche to prove that as Ghanaians we can run institutions, run companies, businesses, and be successful. Secondly, employees, the sort of discipline they exhibit when a foreign manager is run this thing, show that same respectability, be disciplined, and go by the rules, so that we can resolve. But for me, for this one, it's discriminatory. It's discriminatory by all standards to say that, okay, this kind of job is only certain individual from this part of the world. It's completely unacceptable and discriminatory. And for me, either if you like to call it ethnic or call it racialism and so on, which the world is fighting against. So it's a whole contradiction. It's a whole contradiction of the kind of world we intend to build, where currently our common humanity and our shared values is what we uphold in the midst of our diversity. Because our diversity is natural. It's God who made us. Look at me and this. I look darker, he looks fair. So can that be a basis for a certain kind of... No. Even in terms of religion, that's how God made it. If God had wanted, the whole of the world would have been Christian, or the whole of the world would have been Muslim. But we have a world of Buddhists, we have a world of Hindus, Confucianism, Christianity, Islam, and this is a reality we must go along with. If you divert away from this, then you become a bigot or somebody who is selfish, and you'll be a source of problem for our country. So this is something that, like you said, I'm not very sure about the law, but at the level of ethics and our feeling of our humanity and our international laws, where we are promoting our common humanity, I think it is very unfair. It sounds so discriminatory to limit a certain job opportunities to a certain people from a certain part of the world. For me, it's not something we must support.
Thank you very much. We'll stick on that, and as soon as we get through, we'll give you the update on that. There's a case of some kids who drowned. We'll be getting a keep an eye report on that in a short while. But it just reminds me of the Akotolonte issue that happened years ago.
I remember
remember that?
I remember it very, very well. I preached on that spot. You know, it was a well that was covered, and they've forgotten about it many years. The children were playing on the 8th. In fact, that is where the Faith Church was built. And so while the children were playing, it caved in the orphan. And those times, it was President Rawlings who was the leader. It was AFRC time. So he went into the well himself to go and carry some of the children out. And it's a miracle place. Anytime I've gone to that place, I just stand by and pray for those children that their soul rest in peace. And it's something we should just check. A big well. But they sealed it and they thought that was okay. But it was not okay. It was not properly done. And while the children were jumping on it, a lot of children died. A lot of them were drowned.
You know, I worked with a gentleman called Nat Amasa at GH1. And on the anniversary of the Akotolonte disaster, we were reviewing the news, and then he said, I was there. Then I said, what do you mean you were there? He said, he's one of the people who survived that disaster. He knows all the kids who perished. He said they were all playing on that well, as you said. They said the moment he jumped off for some reason, the well collapsed.
God saved him.
And so anytime that disaster happens, he remembers his friends. And because of that, I always tell my children that since they could start walking, when we are walking in town, don't step on manholes. Yeah, you don't know how strong it is. You don't step on the manhole. You know, go around it. Safety. Go around it. Safety. You know.
Yeah, I think we take our safety for granted. It's one of the reasons, things that I have seen. If you go to the developed world, they are very, very, very conscious about safety, and so they make arrangements in their settlements, their roads, their pavements, where the bicycle passes, where the train, the tram will pass, where the vehicle, where human beings will walk. They make sure that as you walk, you don't fall, you avoid the risk. It must be something beyond human control, really, for you to fall into that situation. But humanly speaking, they make arrangement in such a way that, so even in schools, for example, they make sure they are very conscious about the child who is a motor child who needs protection because he moves and jumps over there. How do we ensure that we allow him to explore his environment through the child adventure without hurting himself? I mean, you go into a home, beautiful home with what do you call it, swimming pool, and there's no any protection for the children, and the child can quietly die in the pool while the parents are inside. This tragic thing happened to one of my very, very good family friends, and I can't forget it. The small girl was they were busy in the room, visitors have come, they were busy, and the small girl was just walking about. Not only she had fallen into the pool and she was dying. And the parents did not know. But after some time, they know that she moves a lot. Her absence, the silence that they noticed, where is this child? And they began calling the name. Once they could not see her for a certain length of time, they said, where is this girl? And then they came out, looking around, and the small girl was at the bottom of the pool on the verge of dying. They picked her. Before she got to the hospital, she was gone.
Water had entered her lungs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she was gone. She didn't survive.
How old?
Oh, I think she should be maybe around 4.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, very, 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 very small. There was nothing she could do with her life. So
Devastation in the family.
I call on all of us that let's take our safety seriously.
Yeah.
Wherever. I share an experience. Maybe we'll talk about other things. My experience. God saved me. God saved me. Where my kitchen is, not knowing there was a rat. Oh, do I say a mouse rather? He had nibbled into the, what do you call it? The gas thing.
So now gas was escaping.
Yes. And I didn't know. But I heard some sound. You know, something was hissing sound. You know.
Gas was escaping.
Yeah. So, and I like taking my early morning coffee. So, and usually I walk myself to the kitchen to do that. But as I was going, I said, what is making this noise like this? So I opened the kitchen, look. I didn't understand the thing. So I walked back. Then my daughter came out and said, oh, I've been hearing some noise over there. What is it? She came and told me it was the gas. So if I had struck any flame, I told myself that was God protection, because I didn't know much about it myself. I must confess this ignorance. So I came back and said, wow, so God protected me and my family, because if I had taken a match or attempted to put any flame over there, I think it would have just engulfed me.
God forbid.
Yes. And anytime I remember this, I remember the risk. I say thanks to God for protection, but I have become even more conscious. So please, let's take safety. These manholes and all those things.
So now, with my kids, they don't walk on it. And then coming out of the car, get out of the car and move in front. So the driver must always see you.
Yeah.
Don't go behind.
Yes.
Don't go behind. So somebody ran over their own child like that.
Yeah, we're not safety conscious. Look, you drive, somebody's opening the gate of the door of his car. He doesn't mind that the other car is coming from this way, like the taxi drivers do. You just open it. Just so if you are not conscious, you hit, or you can be hit, or you can hit somebody. So please, let's take our safety.
You know, in most of the religious settings in UK, of course in Europe where I've lived for some time, we have risk assessment. Risk assessment is one of the things a pastor like me or a clergy like Sheikh must know. Because normally what happens is, like you rightly said about even the driving, a lot of drivers in Ghana now, or in this part of the world, who don't know what hazard perceptions are. Kafi, what are hazard perceptions?
Yeah, just your awareness of possible.
Give me 3
danger.
hazard perceptions.
How many maths are available? Can I go to ChatGPT?
You see, so one of the hazard perception is that when you even enter into your car, you do the 6-way check. You watch into the mirror, into the side mirror, into the back, and you try like this. We don't do that in Ghana. So we don't even know the environment. Like you rightly said earlier about the cars. People open cars. One of the hazardous perception is that you are opening your car and a motorbike or a bicycle
you can just slam
is
it.
coming.
It's true.
You slap.
Yeah.
Not long ago, Zion, who does the haircut for Archbishop Haji Ansari, for Pastor Isudan Nabava, gentle, nice guy. He's a Muslim guy.
Oh, then I have to look for him.
Oh, yeah, the guy.
So for me, God is my Baba.
Yes, yours is free. He had a very terrible accident on his motorbike. And it's so painful that the hand that he uses to barber,
It's gone.
it was messed up.
Yeah.
So the hazard perception is such that we are mindful of our environment. And even like Sheikh rightly said, even when we are going to some of the buildings, we don't have ways for disability.
Yeah.
So if you are a disabled in this part of the world, it's like inability to do anything. But I believe that disability doesn't mean inability. There are so many things you can do. And any offense here, God forbid, can become a disabled in a second.
Right.
And so what it is that we must get a risk assessment. And I don't mind at all if one of these days you put Sheikh and I together here and it's only about risk assessment. I can bring you catalogs of it that people don't seem to know at all. One of the risk assessment people don't know is even where to park their car. The reason why a lot of people have had their cars being messed up is because they park at the wrong places. And people think, oh no, I'm parking. And then they park and they don't even know how to park properly. People don't know how to do reverse parking and proper parking. So all these are risk assessments.
So many risks.
Yes.
I will share a story about how I nearly ran over a little kid just this Monday. God forbid. It didn't happen, and I went to even check out the kid who just ran onto the road. You know, I turned onto the road, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a little boy about 1 year old, just running across, and then I see an adult just scoop him off over to the other side, and I just thank God that there was no other car coming the other side because he would have mashed him. You know, they took their eye off him. Couple of seconds, and the guy is just learning how to walk. So he was excited.
The motor child.
Let's get on the line right now. And you know, I spoke to you about the Cotonou disaster. So a survivor of that particular disaster is on the line right now. I used to work with him. His name is Nat Amasa. Nat, good morning.
I know Nat.
Hello, Nat. Nat, can you hear me?
Good morning, Kikaf.
Yeah, Nat. How are you doing?
Very happy, very, very happy, excited to hear your voice this morning.
Yes. You know, anytime we hear news of young people losing their lives as a result of accidents, it always brings me back to your experience that you had many, many years ago. Because I understand you were part of the Akontolate tragedy, but you escaped.
Actually, I was the 15th person. You know, the number of children that died that day was 40. I happened to jump off the well, and then cave in.
What were you guys doing on that well?
We were just playing. Well, it's just a normal well. It's a normal well. We don't know what it was at that time, but it was just a normal children playing on the well school compound. Recently, I was even there during the COVID time, and it was just normal children playing. We always do things. You know how children play.
Yes. How old were you then?
I can't remember, but I was quite small.
Primary school, right?
Young. Yeah. I think 2 or so.
Was there any warning? Was there any warning before this thing collapsed?
Oh, I was, during school, people normally tease each other with girlfriends, boyfriends, and stuff. At that time, so I was just one of the students. My colleagues came to call me that a certain lady was calling me, and that lady her mother has a provision shop at that time. We call it a store. We didn't know it was a provision store, and she always bring biscuits. So that was what actually saved me. Oh, rather than Cheboy. So I just rushed down, and then the thing came in. So if that my brother had not called me, I'm tearing up right now. I'm having a lot of memories. If he has not called me, I would have been the 15th victim of that disaster.
Because nobody survived, right?
At that moment, we don't know if anybody else survived. But all those that entered the well that day,
they died.
Oh, they died. They died.
Years after, do you know whether security arrangements in that school have improved?
Now there is no school there. There is rather a church. I was there during the COVID time. I followed the Rotary Club. We were doing some donations around the area, so I happened to be one of them. I went there to do a coverage for them, and then we happened to enter into that yard. It was difficult. It was difficult for me going there, but eventually I have to go. And there is this church on the premises now. The well it's been made well. I mean, it's been. I mean, they've done a lot of renovations. And I was asking people in the house if they know the history about the well. Everybody they are aware. They know what happened and stuff. Yeah. So there is no school there as I'm talking to you. Yeah.
So I think it's a tough question, but I mean, how do you feel when you hear of these disasters where young children are just playing and then?
You see, the system in this country is you know me. I don't like being political.
Mm-hmm.
The system in this country is dangerous. We see a whole lot of things every day on our streets, our homes, everywhere. But life itself must be preserved. So anywhere we are, we have to make sure that things around us can preserve life. But parents these days live carelessly. I mean, this morning I realized I went to open my fridge and I got the shock. I just called an electrician to come and check it out because I have a little crawling baby in the house. So everybody must take responsibility for the security wherever you are, the offices, the homes, the wherever we are, even in Trotro.
Mm-hmm.
We must secure our lives because life is precious, it's priceless. The Bible somewhere, God said, when you see two men fighting and they happen to hit a pregnant woman and the pregnancy does not come down, those two men must pay a compensation to the husband of the woman. But when the pregnancy should get aborted, by their actions, life must be replaced. It means that those two men. So life is very precious. Life is very precious. I mean, you cannot buy life anywhere.
Indeed.
Those people who are gone are gone. I'm getting close to my 50s now, and I mean, I've seen a whole lot. I've seen a whole lot of careless people living carelessly, driving carelessly. I mean, there are things that we live by,
right.
And we have to make sure that we preserve each and everybody's life.
Alrighty.
We don't just eat anything. You don't just walk anywhere because you think you feel. I mean, people are walking there, and so we must also educate our children.
Mm-hmm.
We must educate them as they are growing up that there are some things that they don't take for granted.
How has your experience affected the way you brought up your children?
Oh, a lot. I once went to a school around Dansoma. Around Dansoma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the school is called Ewit.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw children playing on a well like that, which is partially covered with a plywood.
Mm-hmm.
So I raised an alarm, and I went there again. I went to visit. At that time, I went to visit a lady at that school, and I realized that thing. That well was just opposite the books collection center, which is being managed by this same lady. So I raised an alarm, and I spoke to them. I told them, I didn't tell them my experience. I just told them that this is dangerous for these children. And you know how children play. You know, so I went there the following day, and I spoke about it again, and then they got it fixed. So my experience about that it has really shaped me. I don't just do things anyhow. When I see anything, any noise, I hear any noise on my car, I try and get it fixed. I haven't driven my car for like 2 weeks now because somebody hit it. And I need to test it and make sure that it is well.
So safety.
I will not be able to, yes, I'll be able to drive it and come home safely.
Yeah.
With me, my life intact, and will not be a risk
to other people.
For other people.
All right.
On the street.
Well, Mr. Nadamasa, thank you so much for sharing your experience, survivor of the Akoto Lante disaster, where a well collapsed and 14 children lost their lives, and he just jumped off because somebody asked him to come and get some biscuit, saved his life, really. You're watching GTV Breakfast. I'm here with the Sheikh and the Reverend. We'll take a quick break. We'll be joined by the lawyer. Don't go anywhere.
She gave me life.
He's a member of the NDC's legal team. Of course, the NDC is in the news because the Electoral Commission has decided to stay off their election, which was purported to be held on the 13th of this month, which is Saturday. Nee, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
What does the EC say when they say they are staying off your election? What does it mean?
Okay, so the NDC is holding its presidential and parliamentary primaries this Saturday. All right. So
Still?
No, I mean as in the official,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
And so it is per our national constitution. The Electoral Commission is supposed to supervise all elections by parties.
Yes.
You understand that? So the NDC went through the process, engaged the EC, and so we had scheduled our elections to be held on this Saturday. Now, one of the contestants, there are three main contestants in the presidential election: Mr. John Mahama, Dr. Dufour, and then Mr. Bonsu. Dr. Dufour started raising some issues particularly with respect to the issue of the photo album and the fact that
What is the photo album?
Well, he is of the opinion that every election is run with a register. So you are supposed to have this register that is supposed to identify. And for the NDC parliamentary and presidential primaries, it is done at the constituency level. So those who qualify to vote are the branch executives, and then the constituency executives, and then other persons who are identified by our national constitution. His problem is that, and he alleges in his documents that he's filed before the court, if you look at his application for injunction, more specifically paragraphs 14, 14, it says that it is a practice recognized and practiced by the fifth defendant in all public elections it conducts that require a photo album register. And that's where the debate is. The NDC from our General Secretary's position is that what we normally use is a voters register that has names. The photo album is literally like a second layer that is not required by the NDC Constitution. And that is what the General Secretary has put out per his interviews. That this photo album that Dr. Dufo is, making a lot of, or putting his case on, is not a requirement of our Constitution. Basically, what it does is, apart from when you go, let's say you are the returning officer, you are conducting the election. On the election day, if I am a branch executive or somebody qualified to vote, I would appear before you with my ID card. Normally, we have a party ID card, but sometimes for purposes of our internal elections, we are even allowed to use the national ID card, a form of identification. So first, you have to check whether my name is on the electoral roll. After that, there sometimes is, for purposes of identification, enhancing the ability of the persons who are conducting the elections to check for persons who are impersonating. We have a voter album, so then you can verify the person's picture if there's a challenge. But you see, because it's an internal election, normally, if I'm a branch executive and somebody challenges a member or somebody from my branch, because I know the people in my branch, all branches, for example, at the branch, you have 9 executives, okay? So, as a branch chairman, I would know all my 9 executives. So, if anybody comes and says that this person is not qualified to vote, it is easy to check. So, normally for internal party elections, the voter album is not a requirement per se.
Have you used a voter album before for your internal elections?
I know we have.
So, why not now?
It depends. It is not a requirement. That's what the General Secretary keeps articulating, that it is an added layer for what? For checking impersonation and other things.
And they didn't want an added layer for checking
impersonation? No, it's not about the party not wanting an added layer, but it is whether or not it is a requirement for voting. You understand? There's a difference. Something can be compulsory because it is in my constitution. And that's what I'm saying. As for the register, yes, you must have a register. Nobody can vote or conduct a voting exercise without a register.
So that one is in the constitution.
That one is a requirement. But whether or not a voter album, a photo album is a requirement, that is for the court to decide. Okay. Because, and yes, for purposes of running what you may call a generally free and fair election and checking for impersonation and all those things, you could say that yes, verification is a form of verification. Okay. But when you decide to make it a requirement, then you need to prove to a court that is part and parcel of the rules and regulations. So that's the task, that you, in going to court, have you been able, or would you be able to show that per the regulations governing the elections, there's a requirement for a voter ID card. Sorry, a photo album. You understand?
So that's why he's gone to court?
That's why he's gone to court. That's part and parcel of his agitations. And some of it also include that he wasn't given certain documents on time.
Was he?
Well, that is for the court to decide. That one is for the court to decide, because that was dealt with by the administrative wing of. And you know that once the matter is in court, you don't want to discuss the merits of it. My mind is to just give a general understanding of what the situation is.
Yes.
So now he's gone to court and filed what we call an injunction, a motion or notice for injunction. It means that he has put the NDC and all the defendants that are involved on notice that he wants to prevent the election from taking place whilst his grievances are dealt with.
Has he succeeded?
Not yet. But you see, the principle is that if I file that and I serve you, and you have notice of the fact that I am going to court on this date as prescribed by the court to move this motion, you cannot circumvent that process by doing the very thing I seek to stop you from doing.
Which is
not to do the election. So he files his application on Tuesday. He has served the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission is the body responsible for conducting the election.
Yeah.
If I have served you with a motion that I do not want you, I want an order from the court that you should not proceed with the election. And despite having notice of this, you go ahead and have the election. What am I in court for? So that will be what we call overreaching the court. And that comes with very serious consequences, which are even penal, because the courts don't take that thing as a joke.
So bottom line, the election is not happening on Saturday.
Well, what the NDC has done in response is that we have, the rules allow what we call abridgment of time. So even though he has what we call a return date, the date for the motion to be heard is on Monday.
Which would have been after the election.
That would have, of course, technically people, these things can be done. It's set by the court. What the NDC did was to go to court and also file a motion, one, to abridge the time because of the pendency of our election on.
How do you abridge time? Are you
Okay, so the rules allow. The court is the master of its own rules. So you have gone to court seeking to move your motion on Monday. I say that you are doing so based on mischief because you know that clearly Saturdays. So whatever case you have, let the court deal with it on Friday.
Which is tomorrow.
Which is tomorrow. So I have to file all my arguments and everything. Let the court decide on Friday whether or not you have your case has any merit for which it would grant your injunction.
Has the EC jumped the gun by saying they are staying off the election?
So the EC, one of us I was coming, I was monitoring the news. One of their directors has indicated that even if the court were to dismiss the Dr. Dufour's application, it will be humanly impossible for them to deploy on Saturday. And I think that for me is unfortunate because your duty as an EC is to be on the ready. You have been given notice of a motion. We have also informed you that we are going to court on Friday to seek to overturn that motion.
Let's play the if game. If the court throws out Dr. Dufour's case, can the NDC compel the EC to run the election on Saturday?
I suspect that part of the orders that our legal team will seek would be to have an order compelling the EC to hold the election on Saturday. And that can be done.
Can they appeal it?
If the order is given, they have no choice but to comply. You see, because we also face financial implications. You understand? I can give you an example. In my constituency, you have to rent a venue. You have to provide food for the delegates, breakfast, lunch, supper. You have to provide logistics for the police. All these things are done in advance. So clearly, when we look at the balance of convenience, it is going to cost the party millions if you postpone the election. So the EC has to be sensitive. They are a public institution. And so I'm sure that part of the orders that my colleagues will be seeking on Friday, if they are successful, is to ask the court to order the EC to hold the election on Saturday, because it will be an act of bad faith. You have been with the party throughout its planning phase. Yes, these legal challenges can occur, but yours is to be a neutral arbiter. Yours is to play by the rules. So if you say you have been served with a notice, that ties your hands, and the other party goes to court and unlocks your hands, it means that right from the word go, you were in the process of holding the election. So if that order has been given, then your lawyers will be in court on the day. So once you are in court and you witness and the court dismisses, that's the if, dismisses the application, why are you saying that on that particular day, for some weird reason, you cannot go ahead and hold the election?
Does all this action make the NDC appear to be united?
Oh, obviously people have rights. You can't take away somebody's right if he believes that for some reason, he's being treated unfairly. That's why the court process is there.
Why weren't these issues dealt with at home instead of bringing it into the open?
It depends. You see, as lawyers, when you see certain letters beginning to fly, you can see a certain pathway that the person is embarking upon. In reality, and I know you are a seasoned journalist, you have to ask yourself, and these are questions that any court will ask itself. If you look at the facts on the ground, has the application been brought, what we call bona fide? Has it been brought in good faith? You understand? And if you are looking, judicial notice can be taken of a lot of things, including whether the person who is bringing the application has a realistic, chance of success. You understand? I think that there's a lot of mischief in respect of this particular. Yes.
On the part of?
There's no, I won't ascribe. What I'm just saying.
Well, you just throw it out there.
Yes, I'm saying
if
that.
If you say there's mischief, it must be somebody who is doing mischief.
So, you see, if you look at all this, and you really had all these issues, and you know, because the election date was announced way back, I suspect that you should start, you see, when you put all these letters out, let's say from January, you start asking some of these things, and all these answers are not provided, then I kind of understand if at the last minute you have a compilation of these grievances and then you say that, okay, I'm going to court. But here is the case where we are literally at the last stage and we have two elections. We have the presidential and the parliamentary at the same time.
Has the injunction affected both?
Well, you see, the EC is saying it won't touch the elections at all. I was of the opinion that, look, at the West, since it was affecting one election, which was the presidential, perhaps the parliamentary could have gone ahead. You understand? In terms of when the negotiations were ongoing with the EC yesterday, when it came to it, because I feel that, look, at the West, let them commit to one election, and let's wait for whatever the court will see in respect of the presidential. At least 50% is better than a complete loss, because I am looking at the financial implication. We are a party in opposition. So if you have to run this election again, you are going to pay for the hiring of 275 venues.
What is the mood within the MDC?
Oh, I think the mood is bright. The mood is calm.
In spite of the impending loss of money and things.
That's why I'm saying I'm hoping that the statement by the director was a statement of an opinion, that maybe because he's the one in charge of the logistics, he was maybe expressing doubts as to whether they will be able to deploy it. But I haven't heard a formal statement, especially from the chairperson, because the chairperson's statement was clear that they cannot interfere whilst this legal challenge was ongoing. If on Friday morning, and I'm sure by 10 o'clock, this thing would have been resolved. If the court, and I pray that the court looks at the overall and weighs all the issues that are at stake, including clear examples and clear instances where, if you look at everything, does the person really stand a good chance of being successful in whatever he's saying? If the court weighs all these things, I'm sure the court will come to the conclusion that this application, if you weigh the balance between what the party will lose as against what that individual will lose, imagine that 2 days before a national election, one of the candidates gets up and says, well, certain things are not happening correctly in the so he wants to place an injunction on our national election, which is supposed to take place on the 7th of December. Do you understand the implications of that? You understand? It has ramifications for national security and everything. We can't afford that.
Let me speak like a stark layman. Is it possible that the Dr. Duffuor can take out his injunction today?
He can't withdraw it. He can withdraw it. If and that's one of the things that I'm sure some party elders are also. This is where you say that we need elders in the house to,
Is it not too late?
Oh, it's not. I'm sure that
the horse has bolted and now you're closing the table.
You see, people react. The fact that sometimes you react in the heat of the moment, and then you get Papa Osofo to come and sit down, and you are there early in the morning at 6 a.m. Papa Osofo is in your house with a delegation.
The
Osofos have a way of, so I'm sure that behind the scenes there are talks, and I can foresee it's possible that maybe even by the end of today a statement could come out, or even in court his lawyers could decide that, look, for the larger interest. We've had situations, I would give you an example. Alan Tremanting, he was entitled to a second round. He withdrew the challenge and said that the now president should go ahead and take the mantle. So I'm sure that if Dr. Duffuor himself looks at the reality on the ground, you understand, realistically, is he expecting that he's really going to be able to beat John Mahama? Come on, I don't see this happening. So I'm sure the party would get around this.
Okay. All right.
We have a council of elders, and I'm sure they are working around the clock to get this thing sorted.
Okay, I think I'll leave it here. Thank you so much for giving us a clarification. Just before you go, though, since this, I think it's probably a legal issue. So we spotted a billboard of advertising for a showroom manager in a company on Spintex Road. Okay. And one of the requirements is that the applicant should be a European, Indian, or Lebanese. Is this legal?
Why not? Our laws. I'm recruiting. It's a private enterprise. It's different if it's a public institution.
You can actually specify that you want this particular race of person?
That's the distinction between private and public rights. GBC, for example, cannot advertise and say it wants a man alone. because there are constitutional provisions that guard against your ability to discriminate when it comes to public entities. But when it comes to private, for example, nursery schools, they only normally will hire females. Would you be comfortable if a male was handling your daughter in nursery 1? But it's not written in. But most nurseries will not employ males.
What would be the reason for a company deciding that the applicant should be European,
Because
Lebanese, or
maybe-
Indian?
Depends. For example, if it's a cuisine, if it's a chef, for example,
They sell tiles.
they sell
Tiles.
tiles,
Yes. Floor tiles.
floor tiles.
Wall tiles.
Is he looking for a specific expertise?
That only Europeans, Indians, or Lebanese could have?
Well, depends. So I'm saying that if it's a private enterprise, the difficulty for you is that it's a private business. So if it's a private business,
Is it ethical?
It's not about it being ethical. It's about it being, you asked me a question about whether it is lawful. There's a difference between what is lawful and what is moral.
Law is different from ethics.
There's a difference. What is lawful may not be moral. You understand? So, for example, some churches will not allow you to intermarry. Would you say that is unlawful? So there are reasons. But my point is this. If, and the big difference, if the advert is being pushed because of race or gender, you understand, you could look at it from a human rights point of view. And then maybe Shraj, for example, may come in. But I see a difficulty because, you see, private enterprise is private enterprise.
So I can set up a company and say, I'd like to employ only ever people from Southern Volta.
Yes, because maybe you teach.
I can do that.
Okay,
No,
so-
I'm selling tiles, not teaching.
Hold on.
I'm selling
So that's why I
tiles,
said
and I
you
want
need-
only
so-
ever people to come and
so
sell
the
my tiles.
problem
for me.
is this.
I can do that.
You don't, if you went to court, what would be your locus? You don't have a relationship with the person. So that's why I'm saying that it depends on how you couch what we call your course of action. It's not just about screaming that something is legal or illegal. So you need to look, so there are steps. If the person, for example, as a Ghanaian, we have regulatory bodies, okay? So first you need to know how you want to navigate your course of action. If you simply run to court and say, I've seen an advert and I feel that it is discriminatory, the first question we ask is, if it's a human rights action, how does it affect you? You understand? So that's why I say you need to watch how you navigate. It doesn't mean you don't have a remedy, but it is how you go about getting your remedy.
This is my personal view
So
as a
if-
stark
Okay, so if
layman.
you-
I
if
think
you-
the law makes things just complex.
No, if you feel offended, something may be offensive to your personal beliefs. Maybe you don't eat pork. You go to a restaurant that says pork. Does it mean that the restaurant is acting illegally?
No, I had no business there because
No,
I
but
don't
that's
eat
the
pork.
point. So you have to note. So what may be legal, okay, may not necessarily sometimes be unlawful. There are different concepts.
Okay.
So what you have to look at carefully is what makes you offended by
Okay.
the what do you call it, the
advert.
advert.
Please hold your horses here because I have a labor consultant
Okay.
of many years standing on the line, Mr. Austin Game.
Okay.
Good morning, sir. Happy to have you on GTV Breakfast. What do our labor laws say about restricting the application to an opening to a particular race or nationality?
Thank you, my brother Capri. To be honest with you, it sounds very strange to me to hear that somebody to be in charge of, show in the premises of a tile-making company is seeking to engage people from outside to come and perform such tasks. When obviously we have the same capabilities here in Ghana. Of course, my positive assumption is that the immigration services will not offer them the opportunity because they have to give them authorization to be able to recruit. And more so, if our labor department, the labor inspection division, were to be very active, they would have sniffed out that such a thing had been erected at a vantage point like that. They would have ordered them to appear before the chief labor officer or the inspectorate division they will answer why they are doing what they are doing. Unfortunately, we are a little inactive in respect of such divisions of the ministry. So it is not permissible, to say the least. It's not permissible for them to do what they are doing, and somebody will have to immediately elect them to pull down the board. National security is in the country. I'm sure they are seeing it. All those people must activate their powers and ensure that they bring that to closure at once. That's all I have to say.
Okay, just before you go, is this something that is strange to you in your experience as a labor consultant? Have you ever had to come across a situation where a company says, listen, I want somebody from this region or from this country or from this part of the world, and that's it? It's a private company, not a government company, a private company. Has this come to your notice before?
Yes, yes, in the sense that if you do not have people with the same capacity in the country, then they are free, whether it is even government or private, then they are free to do so. At a point in time, even though Dr. Awureko Robbie, for instance, is a Ghanaian, he was one of the best hands during Rollins time, as far as some energy consultancy services were concerned. And so he was recruited from outside, and he was being paid in dollars, at the time. So I'm using that extreme case for our guidance. Anybody that would want to employ a worker in any position that is not available in our country, that company, that organization is free to do so if they do not have that capacity in our country. But for now, showroom managers cannot be said to be unavailable in the country. That is the one that is a bit problematic.
Mr. Game, well, thank you very much. I think there's some comments here from my guests. You want to say something, Reverend?
Many years ago, as a student at LSE, London School of Economics, we were faced with a situation like this, and it was a big debate. The Johan Plaza in UK, in London, in Edgware, had fired all the English boys in the Chinese restaurant. So we went to court, and the Labour Commission came into it. So we, as students, as research students and research fellows, were very interested. So we were all at the court. And the lawyer of the Chinese people made a very potent argument. He says the reason why the boys were fired was because they don't speak English.
The English boys don't speak
English? The English boys don't speak English. And said the judge asked, this is absurd. How can you say the English boys who were born English, has lived English, travel on English passport, don't speak English? He said, oh, simple. They don't speak Chinese English. And that there are customers that come to the plaza. It is a Chinese restaurant that does buffet, and we all go there to Barbara's best buffet place, Johan Plaza. So the Chinese, the English boys there are stopping the customers, and they are not getting the client to come in, because when they come, they speak English accent, and that the customers want Chinese English to be spoken. So you say "Nye hao" and "good morning" and "young wine," and then that goes on, and they won the case.
Spring Roll 2, one, 6. Yes. That's what they want. They don't want
they don't want you want to say the
full grammar and everything.
So in the end, they won the case because the people they want to employ that will be able to feed their customers, to maximize their profit, and to gain must be workers who spoke Chinese English.
Yes. But are we not? This is dangerous, because if I open up a company and say, look, I don't want Muslims, I don't want Buddhists, I don't want Rastas, I only want Hindus.
You see, we haven't, for our anti-discrimination laws are non-existent, except for the constitutional provisional ones. The Constitution makes clear that you cannot discriminate. So it depends. That's why I said that if it's a public institution, you can't even get it. It's not a no-no. But for private sector, you might want to talk to the Labour Commission and see how like they may, because ultimately most of such disputes will come to their end. So Shraj, Labour Commission, those are the two places I would want to hear their opinions about this.
Okay. Thank you so much for your messages that have come in. Kafui, do not let the lawyer go without answering my question about the 8 albums.
Oh, I see that.
Him.
Yes.
My question to Lawyer Nee is the 8 photo albums NDC. There's some 8 photo albums that you guys have?
No, so I don't know why he wants to talk about 8 photo albums. I started by saying this. Our General Secretary has been very clear that there is no legal requirement for a photo album. So your duty is to show me any provision in the NDC Constitution other than a voter register, because definitely you can't run an election without a voter register. But is there a requirement for what? For us to have a photo album? That's the question. If he's able to show me a provision either in our constitution or the rules governing the election, I'll gladly concede that point. But so far I haven't seen anything like that.
Okay. All right. We're having some issues with our audio. The audio is going to Tetekwashi, and the visuals are at, I don't know, McCarthy Hill. So we've seen the comments. We're going to get our engineers to work on it for you. Thank you so much. We need you to enjoy our show. Please, good morning. You think it's not part of the discussion, but there are some traffic lights at the UAPSA junction and Barnyard. For 1 year now, they've not been working. So yes, what does it take to repair traffic lights? It's a great question from Evans from Oyarifa. Thank you so much. I agree with Sheikh, but the irony is amongst us as Ghanaians, unbridled hypocrisy, hero worship, bootlicking is our bane. Look at the scandalous cathedral, yet so-called men of God are still involved in the corruption and mismanagement everywhere, and you say God is watching us from a distance. Okay, good morning, Kafui. Take time and read my message. I'm asking Honorable Henry Quartey when the second phase of the demolition of illegal structures around the Ramsar site at Sakumono is to come on. We, the Friends of the Wetlands, are solidly behind him. He has promised to protect our only Ramsar site in this country. He should do it without fear and favor. Dr. Tete, are you praying for the NDC in the 16 regions of Ghana for God to give them candidates who are called from God? That's Alhaji Dawuda, Medina Estate, asking that question. Good morning, Kaf. Yesterday was your birthday. Yakubu, happy birthday to you. We wish you the very best. Those are our messages so far. Thank you so much. And in case you missed this message, this show, you can watch it again on GTV Ghana's Facebook page. I'd like to say thanks to my guests, Nikpakpo Samwa Ado, who is a member of the NDC's legal team, giving us some clarification about what's going to be happening or not happening on Saturday. Sheikh Arimia Shaibu is the spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. You are dashing off to your program at the national at the mosque.
Yes, National Mosque.
Just not too far from us. Thank you. We wish you the very best on that.
Thank you.
Reverend Tete will be celebrating his birthday on Monday. So we can give him advanced birthday wishes. Happy birthday.
Said that yesterday was Pastor Isudandoba's birthday. Yes. Okay. Tomorrow is Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams' birthday. Hey. On the 14th is Bishop Daki was Mills' birthday.
And then you come on the 15th.
I come on the 15th, and Nacho Manasseh come on the 16th.
Wow. And the bottom line is that if you want to be a reverend, you better be born.
You have to be born on me.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I wish you the very best. We have a conversation on falling buildings. What's going on? Why are buildings just collapsing left, right, and center? Thelma sits with the gentleman to have a conversation on that. My name is Kafui Day. I'm going to continue my breakfast. I started with salad. I'm going to continue with cocoa. Just stick around. Don't go anywhere.